Hey folks, this is the Phillies Talk Podcast presented by Team Toyota, and the Phillies' all-important series in Atlanta that it feels like we've been talking about for 2 months is finally here. He's Jim Salisbury, I'm Corey Seidman, and the Phils head down to Atlanta for a 3-game series. They'll begin that series 2.5 games back, Jim. So this is basically like a week of playoff games for the Phillies. That's how they have to treat it because they need to win a bunch of games to make it into the postseason field. And when I look at this Braves series, Game 1 is a critical game. If the Phillies were to lose Game 1, they would move to 3.5 games back, meaning they need to go 5-0 the rest of the season while the Braves go 1-4 just to possibly play a division tiebreaker game. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any underestimating the importance of that first game down in Atlanta on Tuesday.
Yeah, you're right. A couple things. It's funny, when the schedule comes out every year, I always look at the beginning and I look at the end. And so I actually been looking at this series since pretty much day one. And looking at this final 6-game road trip since day one, because, they finish on the road, big series with 2 division opponents. You're thinking that either one of these series could be a deciding factor in the race. And it's come to that. Atlanta, the team you're chasing, Miami, the team you've historically had trouble with. So we've been pointing to this one for an awful long time. Bryce Harper's been pointing to it, saying that all the Phillies need is a chance when they get to Atlanta. And you're right. They have that chance, but it's going to still be an uphill battle, 2.5 out. That loss on Sunday to Pittsburgh, good job winning a series, but they needed to be greedy and sweep that 4-game series. And that difference between 1.5 games and 2.5 games is huge, as you correctly point out. You mentioned Game 1. The Phillies, Joe Girardi and the Phillies front office knew Game 1 was going to be huge in this series. That's why, 3-4 weeks ago, they juggled their rotation a little bit. One, to get Zach Wheeler an extra day of rest, extra 2 days of rest, actually, after such a heavy load leads to majors and innings. And also to line him up in this Game 1 of this Atlanta series. Line up your best pitcher out of the gate because, the first game of a series are always a tone setter. You got to win that first one, more important than ever, as you point out, because they'd have to run the table if they lose it. So you got Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Kyle Gibson against Charlie Morton, who's ageless, very good. And then they come in with Max Fried and Ian Anderson. So, I think it's safe to say both teams have their best pitchers going. Joe Girardi on Sunday said, all we can think about is Tuesday. We need to go Atlanta and win a game on Tuesday, and then think about what happens after that game. So yeah, the latest, most important game of the season is Tuesday night, and it's a real big one. And I'm really looking forward to it because two real professional, veteran, competent, quality starting pitchers in Zach Wheeler and Charlie Morton. I was looking at some numbers this morning. Wheeler, as a Philly, has been really, really good against the Braves. That's his hometown team. I just know he's going to be really fired up to pitch that one. And he needs to, they signed him to a 5-year, $118 million contract. It's been a great signing. He needs to pitch maybe the best game of his time in red pinstripes on Tuesday night in Atlanta.
Well, over Wheeler's last 11 starts, he's been going on that slightly reduced pitch count. Joe Girardi and the Phillies want to get him out around 100 pitches, and over his last 11 starts, he's topped out at 108 pitches. There are a couple games like 102, 105, but some of them are, mid-90s. Would you think that Tuesday night in Atlanta, the Phillies are going to treat it like it's the NLDS and that, as far as they need to push Zach Wheeler, they're going to push him?
Yeah, I think so. Starting pitching is going to decide so much of the series to me because the Atlanta Braves have a very, very powerful offense. And it's up to the Phillies to keep that offense in check. If it's a close game and Wheeler's keeping that offense in check and you got a slight lead that you maybe don't want to hand it over to the bullpen if it's his game and he's cruising, I could see Joe pushing it a little bit, but I don't know that he's going to push it a lot. For the simple reason, I think Zach Wheeler is only averaging about 109 pitches per start this season. How much more are you going to push him, right? I mean, a couple more batters, and he's right at his season average. So, I think if the situation dictates, he'll squeeze a few more pitches out of him if Wheeler's cruising, if he's dealing. But I don't think he's going to go much over that for the simple reason he hasn't really gone much over that all season long. But if there's a big out there and he's at 102, yeah, you let him go. You let him go. This is why they have budgeted those innings and those bullets, so he can deliver on September, final week of September. But Joe's done this with all his pitchers, really, all his starters. He kept them right around 100, try to keep them fresh for that final week. And we're in the final week. I would think all bets are off, but I just, because of his season average and that track record, I don't see him going a ton before that. It just puts it, it really puts a emphasis on him needing to be economical early in that game, middle innings of that game. Have some quick innings, keep that pitch count in check, but it's going to be tough. It's a really, really tough lineup. When you look at the power, when you look at Austin Riley and Freddie Freeman and Ozzie Albies and Adam Duvall, what a pickup he's been. You just look at the thump in that lineup. That's what it's going to come down to. Can the Phillies keep that offense under control? And can the Phillies, who have been shut out like 10 times this year now, can they score enough runs to you got to outscore you're going to have to out hit the Braves and keep that offense in check to come away with the series sweep, which is really what you need.
Yeah, those moves that Alex Anthopoulos made at the trade deadline, it seemed like every single one of them worked. Jorge Soler has hit. Adam Duvall has hit bombs for them. Eddie Rosario, who they got for Pablo Sandoval, has an OPS just under 1,000. Richard Rodriguez has an ERA under 3. So the Braves went out and they fortified a lot of different spots on their roster to make up for the loss of Ronald Acuna Jr. And it's made a difference. It's kind of kept them afloat. And then talking about the importance of Wheeler and pushing him or where is his limit, even if he makes a really good start Tuesday night, the Phillies are probably also going to need Hector Neris and Ian Kennedy, two guys they've used a ton here and that are even more important because they're missing Archie Bradley, another big piece of this bullpen puzzle.
Yeah, that's a tough injury in the final week of the season. Big injury, big loss. Hector and Kennedy are rested. Hector was available on Sunday, did not pitch. There was a pocket in that game when it really called for Hector Neris against that pinch hitter, Brian Hayes. He ended up, Charlie Hayes' son, ended up having a 2-run pinch hit double to score 2 runs, and that's, what was it, 7th inning. That was a game changer. I mean, I Alvarado should be able to, I don't feel, not confident with Alvarado. He's certainly a guy who can pitch that pocket, but you could almost see Joe going to the right-hander there with the split. But he was saving Hector to be his closer because he didn't have Kennedy, he didn't have Coonrod. So it's the same old story with this team. Too many nights where too many difference-making relievers are not available, but they do have a full bullpen available on Tuesday night in Atlanta. Well, we'll see about Coonrod. He's had a little thumb issue here, but they will have Alvarado. They will have Neris. They will have Kennedy because they didn't see those guys. They saw Alvarado, but, on Sunday, Neris and Kennedy get some rest, and then Monday's an off day. So they'll have a full complement of their top guns in the bullpen. Makes you wonder what it's going to look like later in the week because they're going to have to lean on those guys. But all that matters is Tuesday night. All that matters is Tuesday night.
What do you think of where the Phillies' offense is right now? I ask because during this homestand against the Orioles and Pirates, who have two of the worst pitching staffs in baseball, the Phillies made 2 big comebacks Thursday and Friday. They scored 8 runs and 12 runs in those 2 games. But in the other 5 against Pittsburgh and Baltimore, they scored a total of just 10 runs. They got shut out on Sunday. There were some spots there where JT Realmuto came up with runners on base, and that's been a big theme here lately. Realmuto batting behind Harper and coming up with runners on base. Sometimes he's been able to cash in, sometimes not. It just feels like, a strong week from him is almost crucial to the Phillies making the playoffs here because I can't imagine the Braves are going to give Harper a ton to hit.
Right. And some of their lefties out of the pen have had good success against Harper in their career, but they'd be foolish to give Harper a lot to hit. He's pretty much a one-man wrecking crew. He might be the MVP. He's had a great second half, much like Austin Riley down in Atlanta. Realmuto came through big when they pitched around Harper in the Baltimore series. But, Yeah, you're right. Sunday, third inning, fifth inning, one hit would really change that game. And, he strikes out, he grounds to shortstop. They need a huge week from JT Realmuto. They need a huge week from everybody. They got a couple good performances from Didi Gregorius against Pittsburgh, a couple big hits. They need to continue it. They need to be more than just Bryce Harper. Since July 1st, they are 39-8 when they score 4 more runs. You got to go out and score 4 more runs every game this final week to give yourself a chance. It's not asking a lot, but you need more contributors than just Bryce Harper. And JT Realmuto, I know it's been a long year. He's had a lot of nagging injuries. His all-around game is solid, but they need more from him offensively this week. They need him to be, a guy that can really carry the water here, because I don't expect to see Harper. I don't expect to see the Braves let Harper beat them, put it that way.
And what about rotation-wise? Because the Phillies on Sunday started Hans Kraus. It was his MLB debut. Hans Kraus, the pitching prospect they acquired from Texas, along with Kyle Gibson in exchange for Spencer Howard at the trade deadline. They went with Kraus on Sunday. It'll be Wheeler, Nola, and Gibson in Atlanta. But then could Kraus pitch again in Miami? How's that going to shake out for the Phillies, do you think?
Well, they're going to need a bullpen game again on Saturday? Game 161? Yeah. Game set. So he could be the guy that gets the ball first out of the gate on Saturday. Medina could, Coonrod could. It all depends on how their bullpen is rested and the stakes. They might be out of it by then. If they're out of it by then, I would imagine he'll probably start and they'll take a good look at him. But if they're in it, he might be the guy that starts. He did okay yesterday on Sunday. Okay. Gave up a fly ball to open the game that sails out of the ballpark for a home run. And then, 2 scoreless innings after that. Good job out of the gate. But, he flirted with a lot of danger. He walked 4 batters. There was a ball hit into the wind that on a still day might have been a 3-run home run. But, he did okay for a guy who had only pitched 4 2/3 innings above Double-A in his career for a surprise starter. But frankly, he's a prospect. I don't think he's a big league pitcher yet. He didn't look like a guy who totally belonged there. He looked like a guy that a desperate team was taking a shot with and seeing if they could get a few good innings out of him after a pretty good minor league season. He looks like he needs more time in the minors. But the fact that they had to use him in that game and the fact that they had to use the bullpen for previous games this month just goes back to something we've talked about constantly. They have not drafted, have not developed, have not acquired enough starting pitching to get through a major league team. And that's just astounding. Get through a major league season, I should say. And that's just astounding for a ball club with a $205 million payroll. It goes back, 15 years. Not enough drafting and developing and getting pitchers to the majors, difference-making pitchers, quality pitchers that you can build a staff around. They got Nola here. He's like their only homegrown guy they've gotten here. They need to do a better job of that going forward. It's a big challenge for Dave Dombrowski, and it's a timely challenge because they're trying to hire a new farm director. They have a second-year scouting director in Brian Barber, who I think's had a couple pretty good drafts. It's going to need time to pass judgment on that. But, these 4 bullpen games, 5 bullpen games now, and starting Hans Kraus. And like I said, hats off to Hans Kraus. Did a very commendable job for 3 innings, but I still don't think he looked like he was completely ready to be here. He's not ready to be here. He needs more time in the minor leagues. I'm not saying he can't help someday. The ingredients are very good. And the hope is he can help here someday. But he just was a guy that was forced into that start because you have nobody else, and that's a sad situation for a Major League Baseball team that has to go through a month and it can't find a 5th starter because, Matt Moore didn't pan out. You signed him, it didn't pan out. Chase Anderson, you signed him, it didn't pan out. Unfortunately, Zach Eflin got hurt, and Vinny Velasquez, got his umpteenth chance, and it kind of didn't go his way, and he was released. Didn't go anyone's way. So it's just a sad state of affairs in the Phillies system that they can't go down and bring enough starting pitching here to get through a season. But because of the grace of a poor division, they're still in it, and they still have a chance. Going to be a real difficult one, but we'll see what happens.
How do you think this Phillies season is going to be looked back at or received if they go something like 84-78 or 85-77 and miss the playoffs. I mean, you mentioned the $205 million payroll, which should say that there's no excuses. And, even if you suffer injuries, you still need to be able to make the playoffs. And with a roster like that and so many veterans and all-stars, on the flip side, this team has not had a winning season since 2011. So 84-78 or 85-77 on the surface would represent progress. How do you think people would look at that?
Well, it's going to be just what I expected. I thought they would be like 1, 2, or 3 games over 500. And that's pretty much how it's playing out. But given the fact that you have Bryce Harper in his prime putting up an MVP type season, they have that huge payroll, that Wheeler's had a season that's going to land him probably in the top 3 of the Cy Young. And you were in first place on August 8th. It was there for the taking, the division, and you let it slip through your hands. So ultimately it's going to be a disappointment. Anytime you don't make the playoffs, it's a disappointment. I still, Dave Dombrowski came on board in December. I think he still needs time and give him a chance. And I think he can turn this thing around. I think a winning season tells you they're headed in the right direction, but there's a lot of holes, going into the offseason, center field, left field. What are they going to do on the left side of the infield? They need more pitching depth. They're not going to have Eflin at the start of the season. They need to continue to churn that bullpen, especially after a club record 35 blown saves. But at least, they're coming, they're getting playoff relevant again. They're going to have, it looks like they're going to have a winning season for the first time since 2011. Those are good things. But ultimately, just given the fact that they had a chance to really make a run here leading the division on August 8th. I know they lost Eflin. I know they lost Hoskins. Those were 2 very, very big losses. That makes it disappointing. There's still a lot of holes, like I said, to fill here. So I just look at it as a season in which they finally had a winning season, but it could have been a lot more if they don't get there.
2 young Phillies who have been pretty important here down the stretch, very important here down the stretch, Ranger Suarez and Matt Vierling. Suarez pitched the first shutout of his big league career on Saturday. It was just one of those Greg Maddux-like games where the pitch count is low and you're in the 7th or 8th inning just cruising, and Suarez was able to finish the job, a 4-hit shutout. And Matt Vierling, man, between playing first base and some center field and picking up clutch hits and playing good defense, a young guy who is not highly touted but has come up and really seized this opportunity with the Phillies in the majors.
No question. I mean, you mentioned two real bright spots there for this season. In Suarez, you got a 26-year-old left-hander who really knows how to pitch, who really loves to pitch, who loves to compete, and who's pretty good. He's shown you he's pretty good. So you come out of this season with something we talked about earlier. They haven't been able to develop enough starting pitching here. Well, it looks like you're going to come out of this season with one, right? It looks like you're going to come out of this season with a guy you can cement in that rotation for a number of years. Nice mid rotation guy. Works quick, throws strikes, competes, nothing phases him. What a great, season he's had here, especially in the second half. I mean, he was a long man. He was a closer for this team, and now he's given him 11 really terrific starts. So just you come out of this season feeling like you found a starting pitcher, you've developed a starting pitcher, and you got somebody you can put in that rotation and feel really good about. One of the criticisms of this organization is, they've missed on number ones in the draft. And Vierling was, I think, he was a later round guy. I think he was like a 5th round guy out of Notre Dame. But you need those guys to come at you in later rounds. Ryan Howard came out of the 5th round. Vierling has done a really nice job. He's a good story. I mean, he struggled in the minor leagues he was a 2018 draft, I believe. Struggled in 19. And then, he was crouched over at the plate that year, trying to lift the ball like so many guys are these days. And then he just went back to the way he hit in college. He went back to doing the things that got him drafted in the first place, a little more upright at the plate. Went down to instructional league last year, had a terrific showing. And then, at 3 levels this year has really done the job. And he's come to the big leagues. He doesn't seem, and much like Ranger Suarez, doesn't seem taken by the moment. Hits the ball really hard. His exit velocities is something that really caught the organization's eyes, and he's given you some pretty good at bats. And he was a kid who played shortstop, and he pitched in high school, and then mostly, I guess, an outfielder in college, and drafted as an outfielder, but he spoke up in spring training and said, I can play some corner infield. Love a shot to do that. And they gave him a shot. And he's looked good at first base. He's looked good in center field. I mean, you look at this day and age of baseball, these versatile guys with athleticism, and he's got terrific speed. He can really run. These versatile guys with athleticism who can give you a good at bats. They're very, very, very valuable. They might be in the process of developing one of those guys. So he's been a real eye opener, like Ranger Suarez has this season. And I think Vierling has really put himself on the map to maybe beyond this team and play big innings here in the final week of the season, but maybe beyond this season, beyond the ball club, coming out of spring training next year as an extra outfielder, a guy who can play first base, a guy who might even play third base, a guy who can run, a guy who can pinch hit. It would be great to have a guy like that. They thought they were developing one in Kingery. We'll see what happens there, but maybe Vierling can be that type of guy. So it's been really good to see the contributions he has made. I mean, you mentioned the Suarez game, 97 pitches, 4-hit shutout. It was like Cliff Lee, get the ball, throw the ball. It was a beautiful thing to watch. And in that third inning, Vierling, powers a ball over the center field wall, well over 400 feet, came off the bat at 107 miles an hour. And Harper, 2 batters later, hits one off the batter's eye at 108 miles an hour. So pretty good. And then, Vierling, first major league home run, Bryce Harper gives him a big hug in the on-deck circle. I mean, that was pretty neat. It was really, really, it's really good to see. That's what you need down the stretch, is you need surprise guys to pitch in. I mean, I think it was a surprise Didi had those 2 really big hits against the Pirates because he had really done so little. That's what you need, right? You need these guys it can't just be Bryce Harper all the time. And it can't just be Bryce Harper as they go down there to Atlanta and then Miami for these final 6 games. It's going to be, it's going to be such an uphill battle. And one of the big reasons is the Braves score a lot of runs. The Braves bullpen has been iffy after the All-Star break, but it's still quite capable. It's had a few good games here, and the Braves are just so professional. They took over first place in they were in third place on August 8th after the Phillies went on that run, and then they took over first place a few days later, and they just have not relinquished it. The Phillies got to a half game out, but the Braves have not relinquished it. That's a sign of a team that's confident. That's a sign of a team that has great leadership, both the manager spot and in the clubhouse with Freeman and those guys. I have a hard time seeing them cough up a 2.5 game lead with a week to go. I really do. I thought they showed a lot of character. The Phillies had a really advantageous schedule here this final week with Baltimore and Pittsburgh at home, where the Phillies play well, and the Phillies did a good job. In that homestand, but the Braves went out west for 10 games and went 7-3. That's a character road trip. That's a team that's going to be tough to chase down here in the final week as they head home. But it's a series we've been watching, eyeballing on our calendars for a long time, and it's finally going to be here. We're going to see what the Phillies are made of because they need 3 wins down there. They need to come out and they need to score early against Charlie Morton. Harper needs to continue to put them on their back, but other guys have to step up because I expect the Braves, basically not to give Harper a lot of opportunities to carry the team. So we'll see what happens.
Well, 7:20 p.m. Tuesday night in Atlanta, Phillies and Braves, both teams have their number 1 starters on the mound, Zach Wheeler against Charlie Morton. And as we said, you really don't want to lose game 1. It's almost like game 5 or game 7 of a playoff series, because if you fall 3.5 back with 5 to play, chance of making the playoffs pretty much vanishes. So we'll be monitoring that closely on Tuesday night. Thanks a lot for listening to this Phillies Talk podcast, and we'll talk again later in the week.